Hey, it's Ryan, the Sash Guy for Fenster Components. We'd like to show you some of the highlights of how a typical installation would go. So the first thing we're going to do, we're going to get the window opened up. If you have any alarm sensors, you want to go ahead and pull those off. That's not always the case. Get it cranked open. We're going to pull our lock keepers off. We're going to leave those here where the window's installed. We're not going to put those back on right away. You'll see that later in the video. Disconnecting your hardware so you can free the sash up to get it out of the opening is where you want to start. Casement sash, Caradcos, Norcos, all of our biggest sellers. You have a dual arm operator that has two connection points on the sash. You got a track that brings the sash in and out, and you've got a control arm in the back that guides it and puts tension on it so you can pull it in tight. So to remove, disconnect your operator, there's an arrow here in the middle of the track. You want to line up the end of your control arm with that arrow, and it'll pop right out. And then your control arm in the back has this clip that you just need to release off the stud, and it pops right off most of the time. And then it always helps crank your operator all the way in so it's out of the way and it doesn't get hung up on anything. So now we're releasing our hardware. We're going to get that cranked all the way back in so it's out of the way, and we're going to pop our hinges off. This particular hinge has a snap stud. We're just using our 5-in-1 to pop that off. Other types of hinges have a slip bracket that you have to pop off, but it's pretty self-explanatory. Now we're going to pull that sash in from the inside. Notice we're not taking windows out from the outside. We're doing all of this from inside the house. Now it's very important to point out at this point, one of the most common problems that customers have during installation is breaking this black plastic bushing off of the hinge bracket. It's very important that when you're pulling your sash that you are removing these hinges very carefully, because the older that these hinges get, that black plastic will get brittle and will break off, and that will lose your connection point between the hinge and the bracket that's on the window frame. When you're working on your new sash and your old sash, you want to lay them side by side so you can visualize all the positions that your brackets and your hinges are going to go in. So now we're taking off our brackets and all of our extra hardware from the old sash. Taking the hinges off now. So now we're going to line up our hinges first, placing them in the same location on the new sash as they were on the old sash. We're going to do that on both the top and the bottom. I want to reiterate the importance of laying the old sash next to the new sash. You can easily get confused from your left to your right. So now we're going to transfer our measurements from our brackets from the old sash to the new sash. So we're taking careful measurements from where they were on the old sash, and we're transferring those measurements over to the new sash so our brackets go back in the same spot. Now that we've made all of our measurements, we're going to reattach all of our brackets back in the same location. Now that you have all your hardware in place, take a moment to clean out the window frame. You've got bugs in there and cobwebs in there. You want a nice clean surface to reattach your sash to. Now I'm reinstalling the new sash in the opening. Notice that I'm setting the bottom in first. That's going to support the weight of the sash. And then reattaching the top. I'm going to reconnect the hinge brackets. Again, this particular model has a snap stud, so all you have to do is pop the bracket right on the stud of the track. And this isn't a necessary step, but using some silicone lubricant on the hinges will just help the window operate better. We use a silicone spray. This is a long-lasting product. Did you hear that noise? It's a little troubleshooting 101. There's two things to consider here when you're putting a brand new window sash in a 30-year-old window frame, okay? Going back to the weather stripping issue, yes, they all come with a new weather stripping on it, but that's just the point. It's brand new weather stripping. You have to compare that to the old sash that has been in this opening for 30 plus years. That weather stripping has relaxed. It's found its home, so to speak, in that opening, and it's been compressed for all those years. Of course, it's going to fit much looser than the whole brand new sash going in, with the weather stripping being much more rigid, much more firm. We kind of do that as a design improvement to begin with, because most people want their windows to fit tight and snug. That means they're cutting down on drafting and better energy efficiency. So when you hear that noise, yeah, you got to think it's going to fit tight when you first put it in. But after it relaxes in the opening for a while, that weather stripping, it'll get hot, it'll get cold, it'll kind of find its home in that new opening. And a couple, 2 or 3 months later, you're going to find that it's going to work just fine. Now, our last step, we're going to reattach our lock keepers. This is more of the challenging part of it, is to get these properly lined up so they fit back into the lock assembly. Placing the keeper on the sash, making careful marks as to where to reposition that so it's going to fit back in the lock properly. We're going to do that on both the top and the bottom. Now, most commonly on at least Truth brand hardware, your lock keeper is going to slide just inside of the lock housing. And if you look inside the lock, there's a cam lever inside of there. And so you have to position that lock keeper to go just above that cam roller inside the lock. You have to envision, if you didn't pay attention to where it fit when it came out, your lock keeper has to slide just inside the housing and above that cam roller. That's your correct positioning point for your keeper. Now that we've made our marks, we're reinstalling our lock keepers. Now, in a perfect world, or you've done this 300 times, everything lines up perfectly and the sash closes without any problems. And finally, we're reattaching any kind of sensors or other pieces of hardware that we took off from the beginning. And finally, we're pulling our sticker and we are finished. So there you have it. Step-by-step instructions for installing a casement sash. There might be subtleties to your particular application, but in general, that is how you would install a new replacement sash from Fenster. In other videos, we will talk about other troubleshooting techniques that you might come across. In the meantime, visit our sash model catalog to find the correct replacement sash for your application and start your quote today at fensterusa.com.